been so incredibly blessed. I have had the unbelievable job of rubbing shoulders with some of the most amazing human beings in this world. Very quickly, I'd like to share with you a couple of them. I think after you hear about them, you will understand why for 11 years and for the rest of my life, I will always stand for the freedom of children. Well, after I'd been teaching at the shelter for a few years, I had my routine down quite well. One morning, I heard over the intercom, "Miss Bess, you have 2 new students. Hurry to the bottom of the stairs." I accidentally didn't push the button, so all the alarms went off in the entire building. As I ran to the bottom of the stairs, I saw 2 beautiful boys, one 9, one 13. I put my hand out to the 9-year-old and I said, "Hello, boys, I'm your new teacher. Come on." Well, this was not normal. I felt a little hand in mine. And the 9-year-old boy pulled his body right in front of me and he said, "Well, you are the cutest teacher I've ever had." The 13-year-old brother was mortified, and I reminded him that Alex was 9 and we would be fine. Well, we got to the top of the stairs, and as we were walking just up to the last step, I felt this little hand in mine again. He pulled himself in front of me one more time and he said, "I love brown eyes." I said, "I do too." Well, we got right to the door, and I was glad because Anthony was going to hit him. And he said, "Miss Stacy, I should tell you one thing. I've been kicked out of every school I've ever been in." I said, "You have not. You're 9. This time Anthony was going. I said, "Why?" He said, "I have a problem with rules." I said, "Like what?" He said, "You know what? Things like shut up, quit bugging your neighbor, sit still." He said, "Do you have those in your class?" And I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Then I should ask you, do you like to talk?" I said, "Yes, honey, that's why I'm a teacher." And then he said something I will never forget. "So do we. If you listened more, you'd learn more." I'll never forget that little boy. He sat at the 3rd grade table as I taught at the reading table. And he'd reach out and touch me. And he'd come over and he'd just run his hands through my hair. One particular day I made a deal with him. I said, "Alex, if you can get all your work done and you can do everything I ask you to do without any difficulty, I will give you the grand prize." At the end of 2 weeks, he pounded on my desk and he said, "I did it." I said, "What would you like?" And I said, "Within reason." He said, "Stacy, I don't want to go to lunch with you. I know a lot of kids do that. I don't really want to go to dinner with you either. But if somebody could pull this off, I think it's you. I'd like to meet Karl Malone." Well, I went home that night and I called my friend Judy and I said, "Judy, I've made a horrible mistake and I'll never get this guy there." And she said, "Oh, you did blow it." But she said, "I might know somebody who could write a letter." Within about 48 hours of Mr. Malone receiving a letter, I was about to learn one of the greatest lessons of life. Mr. Malone was standing at the far end of our shelter, and I could see him. Alex was on my left. Alex and I were holding hands. Alex looked over at me and he said, "Stop shaking right now." I said, "Alex, look at him. He's huge." He said, "Teacher, he is a regular man. Just walk over to him." Well, I walked over to Mr. Malone and I put my hand out and I thought to myself, oh, this is not an appropriate thought. My hand is equal to my nose, which is equal to your belly button. So I had to gather myself and I put my hand out and I said, "Mr. Malone, you have no idea the impact you are going to make today." The truth was, I had no idea. I told Mr. Malone that he and I had both been speaking at different conferences at the same time. I said, "I know you don't know who I am, but I've heard you give your stay in school speech." He said, "You have?" I said, "Yes. And I've set up a little podium and I'd like you to follow me to the top of the stairs and give my students your speech." He looked down at me and he took me by the hand and he said, "I have followed your career for a long time. And Miss Stacy, I don't want to do that. I didn't come here today to hide behind my uniform. I didn't come here today to be Karl Malone, the basketball star. I came here today to give to your students what you know they need. They need Uncle Carl. Well, I cried all the way up the stairs as I followed him to the top of the stairs, and I leaned against the bookcases, and I watched all 23 children climb all over his body. They measured his toes. They measured his fingers. They ran their fingers through his hair. I only got nervous once as I noticed Curtis and Alex were looking at his mustache, and all I could think was, you will pick his nose, and we will be mortified. So I walked over to them, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, back up just a little bit. And Mr. Malone pointed to me, and he said, you go stand back over by the bookcases and don't move. I know my husband would like that power, but it doesn't work at home. I will never, ever be the same after watching that young bachelor give to homeless children what I knew, but what I was afraid to ask him to do. I have been truly, truly blessed to rub shoulders with incredible people. They have taught me that I do make a difference, and that the little tiny things that we do are absolutely remembered. In the movie, in the video that you just saw, it said that we never heard back from the 3 children that lived with us. They are 30, 31, and 29. We do hear from them. 15 years later, the telephone rang, and Robert on one end, Opal on the other. Mama, it's Robert. Do you remember me? I slid down the wall with my tears dripping down my cheeks. He didn't say, you were an incredible school teacher. He said, you tucked us in at night and prayed. You sat at the dinner table with us, and you didn't let us miss our homework. And then he repeated the rap that I wrote for him 15 years ago. I am a true believer that everything we do influences a child. I am so grateful for this award. It just gives me another opportunity to share my love of underprivileged children. Thank you.